I would argue also that we should go for a deferral, if not a rejection, on the grounds of policies 4.2 and 5.11. I will try to avoid repeating the points that have been made by the members of the public who have spoken and my colleague Councillor Robertson, but I speak as the County Councillor for Petersfield Ward. I'll begin with 4.2. The officers did not show this in their introduction, but the papers quite clearly state that without telling, or without the approval rather, of the public authority, a diagonal path has been asserted alongside the curtilage of the building and across the protected open space. One's forced to ask why the path was not kept flush and what the purpose of the path is. The claim from the applicant is that, as we heard in the previous application, it's to support the parking layout, disabled access and the bin store. But nevertheless, this authority did not give approval to the insertion of that diagonal path across protected open space. And that stands in clear contravention of condition 15 of C1971020, which states that that space should be accessible, and that has not been by the insertion of hoardings and the new path, which clearly acts as a restriction on that public open space. This might well be more serious than a condition, but I highly suggest that the committee might wish to consider that particular aspect of it. The second part is 5.11, and I thought Mr. Franks didn't do himself a fair justice in representing just how strong community support is in the Northern Petersfield community for community access to the site. Well over £500,000 was raised in the campaign to save community access to the Sturton Street Methodist Church when it was sold, and literally hundreds of people have responded over the course of the past couple of years to this issue. There is a huge appetite for maintaining community access in an area which, as the council's own community services department shows, has the worst community provision in the entire city per head. As it's been said, we've not even seen the community access agreement. Now, I think it's also regrettable that the behaviour of the spokesperson for the applicant this morning has been frankly bullish and arrogant, and more respect ought to be shown towards elected representatives in a public authority. And that, it's sad to say, is representative of the behaviour of the applicant throughout this process. That contrasts very unfavourably with the excellent good faith that's been shown by Mr. Franks, Dr. Neil and others in leading the community on this issue. Bodywork, which has not yet been mentioned, has not been given access to the building yet. But many operational works, many of which have been retrospective, have gone on there at the same time. This does not lend itself towards seeing the applicant with good faith and lends itself to a great deal of scepticism over what their plans are now. CSVPA is linked to the Cambridge Educational Group, which it can reasonably argue provides university teaching accommodation, and to CATS, a tutorial language college, both of which are excluded under 5.11. And since it's under general educational use, it's perfectly possible that Anglia Ruskin University could also gain access to the site. I'm sure none of this has anything at all to do with the insertion of paths, as seen in the previous application. Nevertheless, the community provision is smaller than before, of a worse quality, and as the officers concede in the report, at a potentially prohibitive cost. The committee ought to consider that we've had a series of already retrospective applications this morning alone, and that's not the only point that this has happened throughout the entire process. And it's not clear what the objectives of the applicant are, even at this stage. It seems to me that we have a very serious problem of mission creep, and it's the responsibility of public authority and elected representatives not to allow that to continue. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you indeed.